I know that there's not many people who have gotten to see someone like me in a position like this.
Nora Reichardt, hello! Joining us from the great state of Iowa. How are you doing these days?
Staying very busy. There's certainly no shortage of news around here right now, so I'm definitely always running in about a dozen different directions, but I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me.
You recently came out very publicly that you're a trans woman, and you did this in a big and beautiful way, telling your viewers. So I just have to ask you out the gate, why was it important for you to not only tell your story and come forward in this way, but to do it in the way that you did?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's something that, especially in the lead up to it, I was asking myself a lot when I was starting to reach that point of, okay, I've been living my life as Nora outside of the newsroom for several months now, and I reached that point where I want to be Nora in the newsroom. There was a lot of questions and working with my executive producer and my news director and a lot of other folks in the company about just what do we want this to look like. Basically, what the conclusion I came to was that I was kind of in a unique position of I'm someone like I've been broadcasting for over a year at that point. Even under my dead name, I had built up some amount of rapport with the audience. I think they generally trusted my reporting to an extent, and it felt like it gave me an opportunity to personalize something that oftentimes people don't get to see that closely, especially in a state like Iowa when it's being smaller. There just aren't as many prominent trans people. So I saw an opportunity to use my platform that I've been given just through my career to educate.
I love that. And here you are in this space, you are, gosh, in whatever way that life has led you to this moment, you are this representation that you didn't have, but it sounds like the representation your community didn't have as well.
Yeah, at least in a very public facing role like this. Des Moines actually has a pretty, I would say, thriving queer scene here, which it has always been something that I really appreciate. And especially since starting this process, I've gotten connected with a lot more of those folks here in the community. Getting to have that and celebrate it and feel like I'm in a position where I can share what that experience is like is amazing because you're right. I'm from a town of about 2,900 people when I was growing up, and I didn't get to see someone who is like me, even if I didn't even totally figured it out at the time. And I like to hope that by me doing this and choosing to be visible about it, I hope that I can help other people figure that out quicker than I was able to for myself.
Totally. And listen, I think it's a beautiful thing when a lot of times, especially in situations like this, it's family and chosen family and community that finds you versus you finding community as well. So I love that you have that and that community found you as well.
I'm still getting a steady trickle of folks who are just now seeing the story. It's really funny when I'm in the newsroom every day. We just have like a real time display of like what articles are doing well on the website, what are people looking at, and it feels like at least once or twice a week my story is still ranking up there, and that leads to me still getting new like surges of messages from people who are just now discovering it and reaching out.
Was journalism always part of the plan for you?
I started writing some stuff when I was in eighth grade. I joined the staff full time for my entire high school career. I also did yearbook my junior, senior year. This one professor, his name is Ryan McCallum. I'm still in touch with him. He's just been a truly phenomenal resource for me for all these years. And it was also him that got me to first look at Drake University, where I went to school and I studied journalism and sociology there.
You got to speak there as well. Talk about a full circle moment. What was that experience like?
So the group that I was invited back for is called Positive Mentality, and it was an anti-toxic masculinity group that I was pretty heavily involved with when I was in college, and I was still largely mask presenting. And it had always been a really therapeutic spot for me to just be surrounded by men and women who just didn't feel like they were comfortable with the box they were being pigeonholed into for one reason or another. And there were a lot of different reasons for that. And it kind of gave me an opportunity through coming back with these other alumni to share, I guess the best way to look at it is some behind the scenes things that I was going through of, in many ways it was giving me a chance to recontextualize why did I have that disconnect with masculinity that always brought me to these meetings in the first place, and what can I do to feel more at peace with that? Getting to accept and love that part of myself was just the best improvement for my mental health I could ever hope to make. And that was what I really hoped to instill, was just that by choosing to live authentically and choosing to embrace the parts of myself that sometimes others don't want to see was the best decision I could ever make for my own happiness.
You brought up the word choice and choosing, and I feel like a lot of us in the LGBT community, there's a misunderstanding with the word choice, because the choice is not to choose to be trans or queer or gay. The choice is in deciding to explore your identity and who you are. What's your take on that, and kind of what are the layers in life that kind of help lead you into this moment?
Yeah, I think for me, you're right. In many ways, I've always been this person, even if I showed it differently, and that's kind of one of the big messages that I've tried to convey through this whole process. And for me, it was navigating who can I tell it first? How do I work to show that I'm this person was the real struggle for me, and figuring out that gender expression. And for me, there was a fun little middle phase on air for a while where I was largely still mask presenting, aside from growing my hair out a little bit longer, and I would have some rings on my fingers and some painted nails, and literally we would get emails to the station about those, and asking like, what's going on with that, which, wow, that's a lot of details that people are noticing. But it was figuring out how to navigate that process for me and getting me to a position where I felt like I could make that choice, because for a while I wasn't comfortable with it. Keeping it private for a while was a choice, but gradually I realized that I wanted to get to be Nora all the time. I didn't want to have to go to work, dress up as someone I didn't really feel like, say that I was someone I didn't want to be. And I just realized that wasn't sustainable for me. So for me, making that choice was all about, I want to get to be this person all the time. I like her, and I want other people to get to know her too.
What is it about the trans experience that we all should be talking more about?
I There are certainly hardships that come with this, and I can certainly be guilty of dwelling on that. But I wish that there got to be more representation for people who were just happy in getting to be trans. And there's a the way I've tried to explain it to others is that there's a lot of beauty in really getting to choose to become the person that you want to be. And even in the face of that opposition, and figuring out that I truly have the privilege and opportunity of reinventing myself totally into the person I want to be and the person I've always tried to see myself as. And that process of slowly but surely having more and more people get to see that person and interact with them, it it means the world.
Thank you for your vulnerability and for letting us all in. That's what it's all about, right?
Yes, absolutely. I For years, I would say, like, literally when I was just starting to explore like what it meant to be trans, even before I figured that out about myself, really, I spent a lot of time on social media spaces that had a lot of those trans voices, Twitter especially for me, and just getting to see men and women talking about their experiences of, hey, this is why I didn't feel like I was cis, or here's kind of the things I'm dealing with, my ups and downs. And or even just pictures where people were like, hey, I feel like I'm starting to see myself more and more in the mirror every day. That was really powerful for me, even when I was still figuring that out for myself. And I'm trying to pay that forward in my own way and use my visibility to hopefully help others through that process too.
So, Nora, here we are, fast forward to today, taking into account Nora past, present, and future. What would you say is your truth? Who and what is Nora today?
Yeah, I guess Nora is a proud trans journalist, and I know that there's not many people who have gotten to see someone like me in a position like this. And I'm trying to use the platform I've been given to keep doing the local stories, but also I've been getting to do more stories for things like Trans Day of Remembrance, or helping follow up on localizing the Club Q shooting, and figuring out, here's why these issues are impacting our community, and here's why, even if you're not necessarily part of that community, it's still something that should concern you. And I love that I'm in a position where I get to use my voice and my platform to advocate for people who, whether they're like me or not like me. And I consider that the biggest perk of my job, when people get to, when they let me into their lives and I get trusted to share those stories. And I'm so excited to keep doing it.
And you most certainly are. Nora Reichardt, trans journalist, period. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
To see more episodes of Truth Be Told, check us out at Plus Life Media and pluslifemedia.com. Until next time, let your truth be told.